Jonah, and today I'm going to teach you how to make your very own super easy and super textured crochet 3D herringbone stitch hat. And this hat features Red Heart Super Saver, and half the joy of this project is choosing your color. Super Saver comes in a plethora of them. Starting off with, you have your solid jumbo. You also have fun additions to the Red Heart Super Saver family, like color block. This would be some awesome striping effects. There's smaller balls in white, beautiful, classic neutral. And there's so many other options that you can choose from, and it's half the fun of the project. And the only other tools you need are a 5.5mm crochet hook. A tape measure is helpful, but not mandatory. A pair of scissors is of course necessary, and optional, a pom-pom maker or a fur pom-pom, whatever you'd like. And this hat is an advanced beginner project because all it uses is the single crochet, the double crochet, the chain, and the slip stitch. And if you know how to do those, you can make your own 3D herringbone crochet hat. So why not let's get started crocheting our hat, because they are such a fun and quick project to make, and they're also great for gifting. Okay, so I have my sample hat here, and when it's up close you can really see the texture and the dimension of this pattern. There's two sides, a flat side and then a side that's raised, and it's so deep and 3D. It's absolutely amazing, but it's super simple. And then you start off down here with the classic single crochet back loop brim. Then you work your way up till you have a total of 8.5 inches. Then you just work some simple mesh stitch decreasing. And if you don't know already, the mesh stitch is basically a modified version of the moss stitch. So this whole pattern is very simple. So now let's begin. And just to reiterate, you'll need your 5.5mm crochet hook and your worsted weight Red Heart Super Saver yarn in any of the colors that you please. Okay, so our first step is to just make a slip knot as usual and tighten that down to our hook. And then to starters with the brim, you're going to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you're going to skip the first chain and go down to your second and single crochet into it. And then single crochet into each stitch, each chain across. You'll have 7 stitches in total. And your next step, now that you've completed a row 1, is to turn your work. And then chain up 1 and single crochet in the first stitch. And we're doing back loop ribbing, but I always recommend that you put your first and your last stitch under both loops. So you chained 1 and single crochet in that first stitch, going under both loops. And now, for the next 5, single crochet in the back loop, so turn it over, and you have your front loop right here closest to you, and your back loop, and going just to that back loop, single crochet into the next 5 stitches. 4 and 5, and we're now at the last stitch of our row, so we're going to put it a single crochet but under both loops. That's row 2. Now you can turn your work, chain up 1, single crochet in the first stitch under both loops, and then single crochet in the next 5 under the back loop. 4, 5, single crochet under your final, under both loops, turn your work, and repeat. That's a repeat row for your brim. I'll work a few more with you as you get yourself established while I give you some tips about your brim. So with this brim, it's a brim that can actually be modified. If you want a bigger brim or a smaller brim, you can add more chains at the beginning. And you also don't have to go through both loops at the start like I am, but I do recommend that because a common issue with the single crochet back loop brim is that it gets stretched out after wearing and the bottom part of your hat flares out while the top stays intact because it's a more dense, involved stitch. That's why going through both loops on your first and last stitch prevents that because it makes it a lot tighter, but you still have that really pretty definition and the classic texture of the single crochet back loop brim. Okay, I have done 6 rows of my single crochet back loop brim, and a really simple way to count, so you're not counting 1, 2, 3, 4, is just count these ridges. 1, 2, 3. I have 3 ridges, and each ridge is 2 rows, so 1, 2, 3. Now I have 6 rows. And you'll need to keep following this repeat pattern of single crocheting back and forth across the row in the back loop for the middle 5 and under both loops for the ends until you have done a total of 72 rows. And once you're completed with that, I'll meet you back here and we can move on to the setup row, which is very important if you want your hat to turn out right. As you can see, I finished my single crochet brim nice and stretchy. And my next step is to just, of course, slip stitch yours together, or you can sew it together. That's very self-explanatory. But your next step is to just chain up 1 and single crochet in that same end of the row. And then chain 1, skip a row end, go to the next row end, and single crochet. And a really easy way to do it speedily without having to count is just go through each ridge stitch, because each ridge stitch equals 2 rows. And for a chain, you'll be skipping 1 row, so it adds up and equals each other out. So if I just chain 1 and continue single crocheting, single, chain 1, single, chain 1, single, chain 1, you can see how it lines up beautifully right on top because the chain 1 goes to the bottom and the single crochet goes to the top of that ridge. So what you'll need to do is continue single crocheting and chaining 1 around all the way over your 72 rows. And if you had 72 rows and you stayed in check with your setup row, at the end, you will have to end up with 36 single crochet and 36 chain spaces based on the construction of your setup or foundation row. Now I'm just going to quickly speed crochet through the rest of this row because it's just single crocheting and chaining. And I also wanted to mention, once you get to the top or the body of your hat where you do intricate stitching, make sure that you stay loose. Be a little looser than you were with the brim. The brim you always want to be a little tighter and then be looser on your tension for the body of the hat. Okay. I have about 10 or so more repetitions of my chaining and single crocheting. Pulling it back through and continuing the pattern. Okay, I'm nearing the end, just going to single crochet through my final stitch, chain 1, and each row will be joined with a slip stitch to your first single crochet. So there is our first row of our hat. And now you'll be continuing in straight rounds, not turned round, just straight, but you'll be joining. Next round, you're going to chain 1, single crochet in the first stitch, chain 1 again, double crochet in the next. And when I say double crochet in the next, I mean skip this chain 1 space, double crochet in the next single crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next single crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next single crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next single crochet, chain 1, and then you're going to single crochet in the next single crochet, chain 1, single in the next single, chain 1, and now you can see your pattern. So you're going to do 4 doubles and then 2 singles. Because if I pull out my big sample here, you can see every herringbone is separated by a single crochet, chain, single crochet. So I'm back at the start of the repeat. So I'm going to work chain and then double crochet in the next single crochet 4 times. That was my first time. That was my second, third, fourth. Now I'm going to chain 1, work a single crochet in the next single crochet, and repeat that one more time. Then I'm going to chain 1 again, and work 4 chain 1 double crochets over my next 4 single crochet stitches. And you'll also find in this pattern that it's easy to keep track of, because where you have a chain, that will stay a chain space throughout the entire pattern until you reach the decrease, decreasing for the top hat of your crown to pull it together. And this is the repeat for the first, or the setup round of the body of your hat that you'll be working your other rounds on top of. So just take your time with this round. Going through each and every stitch to make sure that they all line up on top of each other. And I'm almost finished with my repeats for this row. I'm on my last repeat, then I'll show you what to do to complete your last one. Okay, and then for my last, I'm going to chain 1, single crochet in the next single crochet, chain 1, and slip stitch to my first single crochet. And that's the start of our pattern forming, as you can see. For row 3, you're going to chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch, then you're going to chain up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and once you've chained up 5, go to your center chain space. Skip your first 2 chain spaces right here, and then go down a row, and going around the post of that stitch, slip stitch, and then chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then come to your single crochets over here and single crochet in the first single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the first single crochet, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then repeat that. Skip your first 2 chain spaces and go down the row below for the third and slip stitch in that chain space, chain up 5 again, and then continue that pattern over your single crochets. Chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you're going to slip stitch around the base of the next. Slip stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I lay my work down, you can see how this is going to form. I bet you can already tell how you're going to work these herringbone rows and then work rows behind it to get it to move forward. And you'll see what I mean later. And that's what creates the elevated texture. And you'll also find that the first row is the fiddliest. And as you progress, the rows will already be established for you, so you don't have to go hunting and trying to find and make sure that you're landing on the right stitch. Go underneath, slip stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you will probably get this, you'll probably get pretty fast too once you get it started and established with this pattern. It's one of my favorite all-time hat patterns because it uses worsted weight yarn, and worsted weight yarns like Super Saver come in so many colors, so they're great to use all year round. And then I'm just going to chain 1 and slip stitch, and we've completed our first herringbone row. Now this is the row that's going to decide whether you have your texture or you're not. You're going to chain up 1, single crochet into that first single crochet, chain 1, and then working behind these 2 big loops you just created with your slip stitch. Double crochet in the next double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next double crochet, I bet you've seen a pattern. Chain 1, double crochet in the next double crochet, and then chain 1, double crochet in the next double crochet, chain 1, and then single crochet, chain 1, single crochet as usual for your center stitches right here. And I just did 1 repeat, and you can already see the texture. Right here is where it's going to pop up because it's on top of your work. It just sits on top. It's just attached by your slip stitch. So you're going to repeat that chain 1, and then your philosophy for this stitch is where you have a double crochet, you're going to put a double crochet. Where you have a chain, you're going to put a chain. Where you have a single crochet, you're going to put a single crochet, so on and so forth, and that's the basis of what establishes this gorgeous herringbone stitch. I'm going to work a few more repetitions of my double crocheting, and then a chain, and then double crocheting, and then a chain, and you can see how they're going to line up on top of each other. So continue doing this till the end of the row. And once you're finished with that, we'll move on to doing this row one more time, and then you'll be all set to go tie your decrease rounds. Okay, I'm back, and like I said, I've already started establishing my next row on top of the one I just showed you. You'll just be working that same slip stitch that you did before under your next row. And you'll need to keep repeating that, and you'll eventually get this a beautiful herringbone pattern with all that texture, and you'll need to keep repeating that until your work is a height of 8.5 inches. And then, once you've completed that, it'll then be time to move on to the crown or the decreasing section of your hat. And this is the section that you'll be incorporating that mesh stitch that you may or may not have ever tried before. Okay, set that aside. And then of course, you have your body. Once you've worked 8.5 inches, and you have your super smooth single crochets right here, divided with your gorgeous texture. So you're gonna go to the back. And then your first row is by single crocheting and chaining into the same space. Chain 1. And then you're gonna single crochet into the next single crochet, and you're gonna repeat that a total of 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in total in each group, you're gonna have 5 single crochets and 4 chains. Then you're gonna chain 1 and skip the next chain, single crochet and chain, and then go to my next single crochet, and then 5 times chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, 4, and then 5, and then I'm going to chain 1 and skip this chain, single crochet and chain, and then work my next group of chain, single crochet 5 times, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to chain, skip, and continue. And this is how simple it is to work your decreasing for your first round of your mesh stitch. And as you'll see as we progress through our hat, it's the same thing for all the decrease rounds. You'll just be getting into smaller and smaller groups until you're small enough where you can sew it up with a cohesive center. And then your next step will be making your pom-pom, and you're all good. But I'm almost finished with my second to last repeat. Single. And then, since I've now finished my row, your next step is to just simply lay it down and ensure that you have your groups of 5 single crochets and then 4 chains separated by 1 chain. And then you're just going to chain 1, skip over your final, and single crochet to that first stitch. Then your next decrease row is a chain up of 1, single crochet in the same stitch, chain 1, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, next stitch, chain 1, next stitch. And as you can see here in this group, we have 4 single crochets and 3 chains. So we're going to chain 1 and then skip our single crochet right here and hop to the next and do another group of 4 single crochets. 2, 3, 4. Turning your hat as you go. Then I get to skip my next group. And this is how you're going to continue for your second round of your decrease to finish off the top of your hat. I get to skip again now. Skip. And continue this pattern all the way around. I'll be nearing the end of my row very, very quickly. Single and then chain and then skip over your final and slip stitch to join as usual. And now for your third round of decreasing. you're going to follow your pattern and single crochet in the first stitch, chain 1, single crochet in the next, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next, single crochet, and now you have a group of 3 single crochet with 2 chains. Then you're going to chain, skip over your next single crochet, and go to your next, and then work 3 single crochets with, of course, the chain 1 spaces in between. Turn, chain 1, and then continue that pattern all the way around for your 3rd row of your decrease for the crown. And as you'll see, these rows get progressively quicker and quicker because we're taking out groups of stitches as we close up the top of our hat. And the reason you're doing this with the mesh stitch instead of decreasing in the herringbone pattern is because the herringbone pattern needs to have the set number of 9 stitches plus the 3 in between. And this way you can achieve that while still keeping that same mesh pattern that you've kept for the entire hat. Besides, of course, your herringbone columns. Single crochet, slip stitch to your final single crochet. And this is your last row of your decrease. Single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next, single crochet, chain 1, skip your next single crochet, go into your next and single crochet, chain 1, go to your next single crochet and single crochet, chain 1, skip your next, and then repeat that all the way around for the top of your row. So, just going under each and every stitch, skipping and continuing underneath, down, back around, slip stitching to my final stitch. Okay, I'm all good now, so I can lay it down flat. And I have my herringbone beanie, and now all I need to do is stem my end and sew up the top and then weave in my ends. And once you're finished with that, I'll meet you back here with also a pom-pom made. So just to reiterate, I'm going to sew up the top of my hat like you normally would by just going underneath it, weave in the ends from the inside of my hat, and right here too, attach the pom-pom, and then I have a few closing words for you about your hat before you go. Okay, so now it's time to sew up the top of my hat. So I'm just going to consistently loop around each of my stitches, going through the chain spaces. Making sure that I keep each nicely secure. And then pull tight as you go, because if you pull tight once you've finished, sometimes it doesn't pull your beginning stitches tight enough. Then you're going to loop under again, go underneath your next chain space, your next chain space, and continue that, going around. Then pull tight, and I just like to go back and forth a couple times just to make sure that it's completely secure. Then I like to cross back over. Then I insert my needle down into my hat so that I can attach it with the pom later and make it even more secure. I'm going to set my hat to the side because now it's time to make your pom-pom. You can make yours in any which way you'd like, but I'll be making mine today with a pom-pom maker, a big 4-inch pom-pom maker, and I'll also be using 2 different colors of Red Heart Super Saver, and I'll be doing a half and half pom-pom. So I'm going to open it up right here, my end situated, and for this half here, I'm just going to wrap around continuously. Wrap, 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 wrap. Wrapping around. Wrapping. Super speedy. And I like to wrap sections by section when I make a pom-pom, because that really helps you get in the fullest. And that's what gives you a thick, full 4-inch pom-pom, because if you don't wrap section by section, as you can see that I'm doing here, and you just kind of wrap haphazardly, you don't get enough yarn layered neatly into your pom-pom to make it full where it's flimsy, and then you either have a flimsy pom-pom or you have to trim it down to a very tiny pom-pom for you to have it be full. Just continuing to wrap around. Just using up you'll also need a very good sharp pair of scissors. And I just like to go back and forth as I go across the bottom here to evenly distribute it in sections. You can see how thick and full this is going to be just by looking at the bottom. I like to just keep grabbing until I almost have a straight line at the bottom. As you can see, straight line, pretty much. So I can trim this end, and then I can lay it down, push it in to hold it secure, flip it, and then grab my next color of Super Saver that I'll be using, which is a very, almost like a sea foam color, and I think it's going to pair really pretty and kind of offset the navy, just for a fun added touch. Then I'll hold the next 2 together. And repeat the process, wrapping it to the same fullness, or else one side of your pom-pom will be full and the other side will be flimsy, which we don't want. So just wrapping around. Making sure it's nice and full, going section by section. Then going down to this next section and continuing wrapping. And then come down to your next and keep wrapping. It's a little time consuming, but it's very important that you wrap your pom-poms very full, or else you'll have to redo them. And that would be a waste of yarn. So it's best just do it right the first time and take the time to make them nice and full. Or, of course, the pom-pom's optional. But I do like to add a pom-pom to this hat because I think it really adds a nice flair. And you can really have a lot of fun with a solid hat and a multicolored pom-pom or a fur pom-pom. There's so many combinations that you can have so much fun with. Okay, I will be getting to the flat line at the bottom soon to know that I have relatively the same thickness on both sides. Won't be exact, of course, but okay, just a couple more, 50 more wraps. Okay, there we go. So I can snip it right there. And then push it down and lock it. And now they're both locked into place so they will both stay secure. And my next step is to take a good sharp pair of scissors and then going underneath the loops, just snipping them. Just doing little by little. Don't try to jam your scissors down there. Just take a sharp pair of scissors, do little by little. Make sure to keep your thumb out of the way. But I do sometimes hold it right here to help secure them so that I do little by little. Then go down once you're underneath it, and you can cut through all of them and they push out to the side. Continue moving down for my big palm. And if I go all the way back, I can just run my scissors right through. And it's soft and fluffy in both sides. So now you gotta turn it and do the same to the other side. There we go. And then you're going to take a strand of your yarn. And then I like to cut 2 strands and double strand it. Snip it again. And then I pull it through right here. And just maneuver it to the center and pull extremely tight. You can see the whole thing kind of compresses together. And then just wrap again and do a solid double knot. And that is the base of your pom-pom. So you can just remove it now by unlooping these edges. Then split your pom-pom maker, rejoin it, compact it up, and you have your pom-pom made. There's a beautiful split defined line right here, but you don't want that. You want it to be cohesive, so you just give it a good shake. Just give it a really good shake. And then over a garbage can or whatever you have near you, just give it a good snip. There. I just gave mine a pretty good snip. You can kind of shape it with your hands a little bit. So fun. And then just make sure you keep those 2 strands separated. And just hold them over the top. And then insert, going and pulling. I like to pull each of these strands down through the top of my beanie. And then go to the other side of my decrease. And pull each of these strands down again. And then I come to the inside of my hat. And then I take the 2 strands from one side and the 2 strands from the other. And then I make sure that they're crossing, like so. And then I just loop them over each other and knot them extremely tight. And then you're going to knot it again, extremely tight. And then knot it one more time, doing a triple knot. And then I also like to secure it with my top strand from before. And this way, your pom-pom will never come off, and it'll always stay nice and secure. And then at this point, you can just snip your ends. Flip your hat back inside out. Fluff up your pom-pom again. And you are 100% good to go. And I really hoped you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make your very own 3D herringbone hat. And I have two styles at the end. I have just a classic with just a beautiful burgundy and maroon with a black for a pom-pom. And a very rich and classic navy with a seafoam green and maroon pom-pom. I just think this is absolutely the best color combo, and it's just so fun. And remember, use all the different colors of Red Heart Super Saver and have fun. Make the brim a different color. Make each stripe a different color. You can have so much fun. You could even ombre it. And all you'll need is that 5mm crochet hook, some scissors, and Red Heart Super Saver, and you're good to go. And please don't forget to check out the link that I'll put in the description box below. And once again, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And please